President Trump ordering the military to blockade Iranian ports starting tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, in an apparent push to try and take control of the key Strait of Hormuz. And now the president's suggesting gas prices may not drop back down before the midterms, with the world watching to see if this new blockade threat could upend the fragile ceasefire in the region. It's coming after those face-to-face peace talks between the U.S. and Iran seemed to go nowhere overnight.
President Trump escalating, writing, effective immediately. The United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command says the blockade will impact all Iranian ports and coastal areas, but it will not impede vessels moving between non-Iranian ports. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas.
We're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into another episode of Ron's coverage. And today, I would like to speak about the latest update of the war in Iran. Recently, Trump has issued a blockade due to failed negotiations by Vice President JD Vance last weekend. He said he has failed to muster a deal because Iran does not want to give up their nuclear ambitions.
Well, good morning, everybody. And let me say a couple of notes of appreciation. First of all, to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and to Field Marshal Munir, who were both incredible hosts. And whatever shortcomings in the negotiation, it wasn't because of the Pakistanis, who did an amazing job and really tried to help us and the Iranians bridge the gap and get to a deal. We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms. The fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon, and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States, and that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations. Again, their nuclear program, such as it is, the enrichment facilities that they had before, they've been destroyed. But the simple question is, do we see a fundamental commitment of will for the Iranians not to develop a nuclear weapon, not just now, not just 2 years from now, but for the long term? We haven't seen that yet. We hope that we will.
Since the issuance of the blockade over the weekend, the U.S. military is now securing the Strait of Hormuz. 2 U.S. naval destroyers interdicted Iran's ships. So now, recently, the Chinese ship called the Murray, which was sanctioned back in 2023, has attempted to come through the strait, and that was interdicted as well. Despite all the negative press from the mainstream media, our military operations has been successful. Since our military operations started back over the summer with Operation Midnight Hammer, when we destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities, beginning of Operation Epic Fury in early February, we have managed to kill the Ayatollah along with 40 of the IRGC leaders. We have also taken control of their airways, where their jets conduct their operations and drop the drone. We have also taken out their headquarters. We have managed to sink the Gulf of Oman with only 2 U.S. jets, which is the Abraham Lincoln and the Gerald Ford, the 2 jets that was named after the presidents of the past. We have managed to destroy the IRGC and its top leaders with only 2 aircrafts. So what does that tell us? That the U.S. is on a roll. But however, the mainstream media still distributes negative press. The media, they don't emphasize the military perspective. They just focus on Trump posts on Truth Social.
President Trump today doubling down on his vow to bomb Iran's civilian infrastructure if the country does not make a deal to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
During this roughly 90-minute press conference with reporters, President Trump both threatened to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age, but also said that Iranian officials were having productive negotiations. Now, a week after saying he didn't think that he needed a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to end the war in Iran, President Trump reversed course on Sunday, essentially telling Iran to open the fucking strait.
That's what they hyper-focus on. But however, Fox News emphasize our success of the operations.
There is an unfortunate subplot to the conflict in Iran. Apparently, Trump derangement syndrome is so bad on the left that the legacy media mob, Democrats, other so-called liberals, they are rooting for America to lose. These lunatics who constantly drape themselves in virtue are now rooting for a regime in Iran that murders protesters, throws gay people off of tall buildings, and tortures women to death if their hair is not completely covered in public and for other reasons. Don't take my word for it. You know, after it took just 2 weeks to completely destroy Iran's Navy, Air Force, air defenses, and degrade its missiles and drones by 90%, well, here's how the media mob spun it. Over at ABC, quote, even as Iran has been pummeled by Israeli and American airstrikes, with its military capabilities greatly diminished, Tehran continues to demonstrate resolve both in adapting and expanding its military tactics. Could they tell us who might be in charge of that?
That goes to tell you that the mainstream media is biased towards the president and they're rooting for Iran. And so is many other influencers online rooting against Trump, which means that they are rooting against America. In principle, I disagree with our president going to war in Iran because of the whole PR pushback and the backlash from the mainstream media and the influencers online.
The United States has begun a naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, I said the U.S. and not Iran. Let's look at President Trump's message. Trump says any Iranian fast attack ships coming close to the blockade will be eliminated. Remember, Iran is controlling the Strait of Hormuz, allowing who they want to go in and out. But now the United States has implemented their own naval blockade, meaning nobody is getting in and out. This now means the ships that Iran wants to come through will no longer be able to. He also says he instructed the Navy to seek and indirect every vessel that paid a toll to Iran to pass. He says no one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. Remember when the country said that Iran was holding the world hostage by shutting the Strait of Hormuz? Well, now America's the one holding the world hostage. Trump did this in order to remove Iran's ability to control the Strait of Hormuz from their negotiation tactics. But now, because Trump is closing the already closed Strait of Hormuz, all the blame can be pinned to him now. Quite honestly, what can countries blame Iran for at this point besides defending themselves?
Now, Iran is forced to make a deal with the U.S. with influence from China. China is putting pressure on Iran because it also affects them. If the U.S. was to take control of Kharg Island, which we should, that hurts China because 20% of the world's oil supply is facilitated through the Strait of Hormuz. And this hurts China. So China is pressuring them to make a deal. Due to that fact, Iran will be making a deal shortly, despite JD's effort to muster a deal with the Iranian regime. I don't believe they should make a deal. However, due to pushback from the media, Trump is forced to make a deal, which is probably going to be similar to Obama's nuclear deal that he scrapped in 2018, according to the New York Times. That's my input for y'all, and that will conclude this video. You like this video? Hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I will catch y'all in my next video. Peace.